You're listening to Scaling Up Services, where we speak with entrepreneurs, authors, business experts, and thought leaders to give you the knowledge and insights you need to scale your service-based business faster and easier. And now, here is your host, business coach Bruce Eckfeldt.
Are you a CEO looking to scale your company faster and easier? Check out Thrive Roundtable. Thrive combines a moderated peer group mastermind, expert one-on-one coaching, access to proven growth tools, and a 24/7 support community. Created by Inc. award-winning CEO and certified scaling up business coach Bruce Eckfeldt, Thrive will help you grow your business more quickly and with less drama. For details on the program, visit eckfeldt.com/thrive. That's ECKFELDT.com/thrive.
Welcome, everyone. This is Scaling Up Services. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. And our guest today is Safwan Shah, and he is founder and CEO of PayActiv. He's also the author of About Time, which is a book about how we pay our workers in this country. So we're going to talk about those things. Safwan, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being on the program.
I'm excited to be here.
So why don't we start with a little bit of your background? So I know you've been an entrepreneur. You've been in Silicon Valley for a while. Tell us a little bit about your professional background, how you got to PayActiv, and then we'll talk a little bit about the book and the work you're doing.
Yes. So by training, I'm an engineer, and I have a master's in electrical engineering and a PhD in aerospace engineering. So I am an engineer.
Yeah.
I've been in Silicon Valley for almost 24, 25 years now. And I unfortunately never had a proper day job. So I became an entrepreneur very early on. And I would say I became an entrepreneur by accident because it wasn't very easy for me to find a job that I could fit in. And one thing led to another. I became an entrepreneur, and maybe 6, 7 companies that I've been I either started or been part of, and most of them didn't go anywhere. But then we don't talk about those companies. But the ones
they're the learning. That's where the testing grounds. That's where we learn how to do everything right.
Yeah, failure is just training.
Yeah.
But I've been in the financial services or fintech or payments industry for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And my previous company was also in payments in Phonox, which was acquired by another large payments company. And then I kind of had this deep yearning, I would say, to teach. And I became an adjunct faculty at Haas School of Business, University of California in Berkeley. Yeah. Then I also taught undergrads at University of California at Santa Cruz. Then another sort of desire was to go back to school, and I went to Stanford for their Stanford Executive Program. And I did that almost 8, 9 years ago. And the whole premise was that, I'd been in business all my life, whatever entrepreneurship. Yep. And I just wanted to know what are the formal ways to do that.
A lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to, never had formal business training. And it's funny because it's both kind of this knowledge thing, but it's also this kind of credibility thing. Like they worry like, well, I'm running these businesses. I founded these businesses, but I don't have any formal business training. So it's not an uncommon story.
I think, and maybe I can't be unique. So I always felt that there is something more. And if I knew that, I would do differently or better. And it's like you keep going to the library and looking for a book that would give all the answers of the intractable problems. But there isn't something. You have to go through it. You have to live it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is how I arrived into this current journey, which is, of course, PayActiv. And this was a mission purpose-based company, is a mission purpose-based company. And I took almost 2 years off doing nothing.
Yeah.
And didn't really know what I wanted to do. Yeah. And spent a lot of time on a golf course and coffee shops and things like that. And wanted to do something which was meaningful or substantial or inspiring to me and motivating. And this idea met all the conditions because we are doing good at the same time. We're building an amazing business.
Yeah. And so what is the situation, the problem, the challenge that you're taking on with PayActiv?
So having been in the payments industry for some time, I had a good idea of the lives of people who are living paycheck to paycheck. But I kind of got fascinated by it around this fundamental notion that why is it that the most powerful and the richest and perhaps the most compassionate country has such a large number of people living paycheck to paycheck, and what does that really mean?
Yeah.
And Bruce, now it's come into our public narrative, whether it's political or in media, that we're understanding and talking about paycheck to paycheck. So that thing grabbed my attention, and while I was doing nothing, as I like to say, I was thinking about this, and this led to this fundamental idea, which PayActiv is based on, that there are way too many people in the U.S. living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Granted, we understand that.
Yep.
And U.S. has about 60% of its workers who are clock in, clock out.
Okay.
Or hourly,
time-based, hourly, yeah.
Time-based workers. And so I said that for every 2 weeks, living paycheck to paycheck, they're earning some money, but they don't get paid for until 2 weeks have passed. Mm-hmm. During that time, between those 2 weeks or between paychecks, they are getting timing-related dings like penalties like late fees. If your rent is late, you've got a $65 fee. If your phone bill is late, you got a fee. And then they are getting hit by overdrafts. And they do overdrafts not because they're all messed up, but they just don't have the money. Now, how they got there was not something I could solve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said there are only two things that we focus on. One is how much people are paid or the level of salary. Mm-hmm. The second thing we focus on is how they are paid, which is structure like taxes and subsidies and so on. But what has been ignored by the world, and not just in America, but for thousands of years, is when you are paid or timing. Yeah. Now, who decided 2 weeks or monthly? Now, who decided it? If I ask anyone question, they can't come up with an answer. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Yeah. And somehow waiting to get paid is character building. So, but that isn't true.
Yeah.
That isn't true. Yeah. And so this led to the creation of PayActiv, which is a double entendre. It's PayActiv, or activate your pay. Yeah. And this idea kind of launched the company, and I was very fortunate. We were backed by amazing investors. I was an early investor in my own company. Assembled a great team. Yeah. And now we are almost 5.5, 6 years in this journey. And there's a lot of stories, a lot of things we have learned. And I can go into them if you want me to, or... Yeah, well, let's talk about it. So let's just frame it a little bit more for folks. I think it's an interesting dynamic, I guess, in terms of businesses. And it's funny, I think a lot about it, or I work with a lot of companies on the kind of the employer side. And when we're kind of managing cash flow and stuff like that, one of the things that comes up a lot is, well, how frequently are you paying your people? And, if you're doing every other week, or if you're doing once a month, or you're doing twice a month, like all these things kind of factor into cash flow and how when you pay ends up impacting your cash position. Well, there's the flip side, which is what happens with your employees. So and if you're paying every week versus every other week versus once a month, you're basically an employee is building up a liability, or you're building up a liability with an employee, and then you're paying that liability off. And so it sounds like what this is really getting at is, well, the consequence for the employee is that they now essentially have to fund that period of time. Like they have to sort of invest that week or 2 weeks or month before they actually get cash on hand. And you want to change that dynamic, make it so that they have better access to the money that they've earned. Exactly. You said it well. And I often summarize it in by saying that it's a trade-off. Yeah. And let me give you an example, like to make it concrete, that we pay our landlord in advance. Right? Yeah, exactly. If you rent a place, we pay a landlord in advance. So obviously landlord has leverage. Yeah. We pay our vendors upon delivery, or we have terms. Yeah. That if we pay you with 30 days, 60 days, then these are the terms. We'll pay you this much more because you're kind of financing us. Yeah, no, you're absolutely what you're doing. You supplied the material and I won't pay you for 30 days. So here's our customers pay us as soon as we give them the service. Yeah. So we paid the landlord in advance. We have terms or upon delivery payments for our vendors. Our customers pay us immediately. Like if you walk into Starbucks right now. Yeah. You don't get a bill and pay it at the end of the month. Yeah. They don't kind of smile at you and say, hey, you've got 30 days to pay this. But the person who served you the coffee has to wait 2 weeks to get paid. Yeah. So it's kind of, so why do we need to take a loan from the least leverage, the people with the least leverage, the poorest or the ones working on an hourly wage. So that is what I'm kind of questioning, that we don't have an advantage. Now, the counter argument is, hey, I've got this cash management, cash flow, treasury function that I do. And if I hold this salary for 2 weeks, it accrues a variety of benefits to me. Yeah. If we do the calculation, it is probably a very nominal amount. And if you could use that to build greater engagement with your employees, the return would be positive return would be in spades. Yeah. That's what we've discovered, that bigger turnover improves. Yeah, bigger picture thinking around stay that. Longer.
Well, I would say, acquisition. I mean, finding talent, being able to bring on talent, it would be huge. Yeah. If you can basically tell somebody that, look, you're going to get paid more frequently, you're not going to have to wait 2 weeks to get paid. That's going to make me a much more attractive employer.
Especially in a economy or marketplace where the task-based gig worker can get paid on a task, and the success of Uber and so forth show us that people like to manage their time. Yeah. So they can work when they want, and they would prefer or certainly like to get paid. That's why millions of people are going into the gig economy. Yeah. And now large U.S. businesses which need hourly workers are competing with them. Yeah. That, how do you ask an Uber driver who drives for Uber for 4 hours a day to work at Nordstrom? Yeah. Behind the counter. Yeah. Yeah. So these are so I'd say there are three variables, Bruce. There's retention, which many studies, the recent one was at the Harvard Kennedy School study, which we provided data for, that it's at least a 20% improvement in turnover or retention. Yeah. And each employee's replacement cost is somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000. Yeah. Because it involves retraining and, et cetera, background checks. So that's a huge impact. The second one is recruitment. We have hundreds of employers that use us, and they actually advertise on Indeed and other websites. In fact, on their own job sites, we offer this financial wellness benefit. Yeah. It's come into the equation of attracting people, and engagement is sky high. Because I like it. The employee says, finally, Mr. Miss Employer, you understand what my problem is. Like, otherwise, talking about money is, you don't talk about money at work. You don't talk about religion. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about money. Yeah. The first two don't hurt you. But when you don't talk about money, that's like saying, the one reason I work here is to get paid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not going to talk about oxygen. It's really don't need it. So I'm curious because I think, just thinking through the business kind of challenge of this, the argument or the model of I'm going to pay every 2 weeks, is kind of a risk mitigator on the employer side a little bit. It's like, I'm going to, I'm going to have 2 weeks of your performance before I pay you. If I try to go the other way, if I go to the landlord model, it's like, well, I'm going to prepay you for 2 weeks of work. That becomes problematic. So then you get down to, well, can I pay you more frequently? The issue there becomes transaction costs. And like, I don't want to, as having someone who's run a company and had to run payroll and all that stuff, the idea of running payroll every day would be daunting. How have you kind of structurally addressed this whole kind of like the cash flow gap and the transaction costs? Like, explain how you're kind of structurally approaching this.
So the first thing that you pointed out correctly, the first thing is the employer is not very keen to put up their own money. The good news is that not every employee needs access every day. Yeah. Even better news is that we don't provide everyday access to money, and nobody needs it anyway. So what they need is a timely access to money. Now, if let's say 50% of the employees need a portion of their salary on certain days, we don't know which days of the 2 week they need it. So my company, PayActiv, puts up front the funds. Got it. We go and become a vendor or partner to the employer. We don't go direct to employee. So we're not a lender. Okay. So we go to the employer and say, we will provide the money that your employees need when they need it. And we have a mobile app which employees can download. We get access to the time and attendance data, which tells us how many hours somebody has worked. Hence, the book, It's About Time. Yeah. And you go ahead and use that to do all kinds of algorithms. Some people have garnishments, some people have other challenges. So we have to work around all those. And we put a guardrail in it. An employee can access a portion of their salary, configurable, but it could be 30%, 40%, 50%, 20%. They go ahead and take the money from PayActiv. We front the money, no change to the employer. Employer doesn't even know that that has happened. They may just, tell the employee the benefit is available. At the end of the pay cycle, just like every pay cycle, the employer runs the payroll. They look at the different amounts. We send them a file, details of the file. So whether it is through deduction or PayActiv directly debiting the employee, we take care of the reimbursement to ourselves.
Got it.
So the employer has no additional work. Money's coming from us. They did not pay us as a vendor. Employee had to pay. We charge a flat fee for 2 weeks. You can use the service 1, 2, 3 times. It's $5 if you're a biweekly payroll and $3 if you're a weekly payroll.
Got it.
But the astounding thing we discovered is that you'd say that everyone would just draw down on all the money they've earned. Because remember, we're not giving future wages. We're giving already earned. So even if the person quits, it doesn't really matter. Because they took money that they would have got anyway. So what happens then is employees said about 35%, and we surveyed them, and they said, we said, why do you need this money? It was always about avoiding a late fee or an overdraft. Now, overdrafts are $35 billion in fees per year.
I know.
And then the notorious payday loans are $6 to $7 billion.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So both these. So we said, that is the reason. So we figured out ways on how they should get the money. So we can move it to their bank account immediately. We can move it to any prepaid card. Then many of them said, we are going to pay a bill. So we said, why don't we add bill pay to ourselves? So you can access your money and then you can pay your unlimited number of bills. So we're like a bank for the unbanked.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because that's a huge problem is the sort of the unbanked or the unbankable part of this economy. And unfortunately, I guess it, from a financial services point of view, there's certain logic in terms of why, banking those people is so expensive. And so then why the fees are so high and all that stuff. But it's a self-perpetuating social issue, right? The people that don't have access to banking services end up having huge amounts of fees associated with trying to do banking services, and they're the least able to pay this stuff. So, at some level, it's a nice solution that it's just sort of getting better access at the money that they've already earned and allowing them to kind of use it. And it sounds like what you're saying is that it's not that they're using it to avoid some of these problems, some of these high fee, situations that come up, so that they don't have to incur those fees, which makes it even worse.
Timing. It's so what we like to say, and it's very it's articulated this way: timely access to earned wages. It's not daily, it's not weekly, it's not. It is timely or on-demand access to earned wages. Control goes to the employee. Now that they have better control, it's like peace of mind. Imagine leaving your home with no money in your pocket and no way to get it. Of course, the payday lending store will be attractive. So that timely access to earned wages, then all those services that allow you to save money, like bill pay, like if you had a Visa card, you can load it on it so you can buy various things. We also added Uber. Without having an account with Uber, you can use money. You can use 30 minutes of your work. Let's say you make $20 an hour. You need $10, right? Let's take an example. You want to get to work because there is no gas in your car. So we integrated Uber. So without even having a credit card, you link your earned hours with Uber. So we did that, and it's huge. The impact is huge.
Well, that one's interesting. Yeah, actually addressing the things that prevent people from being able to get to work and earn the money.
Exactly. And running out of gas is one of them, believe it or not. Another one is the stress that accumulates if you don't have food or you have to get a backpack for your child. So we then connected Amazon Cash. That if you wanted to buy a backpack for your kid and you needed a $30 backpack, it was 20% off on Amazon. But you don't have the ability to buy on Amazon. Because you don't have a credit card, you don't have a bank account. You go to a corner store, give them cash, so they load money to an Amazon account, then the product gets shipped. That's a lot of work for you. So we've added that into our app. So you can just, from the app, it is all those financial services which banks don't think of giving because they want to get deposits. These individuals don't have money to deposit, but they're willing to do many transactions.
Yeah.
It's that kind of approach.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Some of this, I mean, just from I'm thinking through as a business side, it's almost like factoring my receivables. I mean, it's
Exactly.
I need it. I need the cash now for something that somebody owes me in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So you get a factoring, agreement, and you can access that money. You're basically doing that for the employee on the other side.
Yes, and
so I'm curious,
charging any interest and things like that. So it makes it very, very convenient.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious. So, talk us through how you went from kind of this initial idea to actually kind of coming up with the product, getting the product built, getting into market. What have been some of the challenges, obstacles, things that you've had to kind of overcome to make this product actually work and get it into market?
So since when we started in 2011, 12, I was thinking about it. That's 7 years ago. Yeah. So there was no one who had even remotely thought of this.
Yeah.
And so it started, interestingly enough, we never had to pivot. The world came to us eventually. So 2013 is the first time we went live publicly, and it was in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a factory, and we went live, and there were a few hundred workers there. And for the first time, I heard them say that I don't have a bank account. So I said, how am I going to get the money in the hands of these individuals? Believe it or not, I bought a $2,000 ATM machine or a kiosk.
And, fascinating.
And it wasn't an ATM. I put $2,000 inside it, and I gave them a PIN number to take the money. And the CEO was stunned. He says, every month I bring cash here to give advances to my employees because I don't want to lose them.
Yeah.
One thing led to another. So this was a big barrier, that how do you get the money in the hands of people? Yeah. They didn't have a bank account. They didn't have a card. So how do you give it to them? Mm-hmm. You literally automated it. So that was an automation. But I couldn't put, ATM machines across the country. And ATM networks are not designed that you can add another transaction just on an ATM just like that.
Yeah.
They're older technology. Today, of course, Walmart is our partner. So if somebody needs cash, they walk into Walmart and pick it up. We give them a PIN number, and you pick your cash from Walmart.
Yeah.
So there was a regulatory side of it. I spent, God knows how many times I've been to DC and, meeting the various regulators, et cetera, like Consumer Finance Protection Bureau and so forth. Then technology was a big, how do you build? So we had to literally build an entirely new payment infrastructure, because we are, in the payment language, we are not only the issuer, but the acquirer, but the risk engine, we are everything, because the rails did not exist.
Yeah.
We are the mobile app. We are the kind of the bank because we are funding it. Mm-hmm. We are also connecting to a fragmented industry, hundreds and thousands of employers. Yeah. Each one has a different payroll system.
Oh, God, yeah.
Different time and attendance system. Yeah. You've got to be crazy to take this one on and to be a pioneer in it. But I never thought about the technological or the regulatory challenges. Yeah. I knew that we are on the right side of that. Technology we could build in our sleep.
Yeah.
It was really about the life of that $12 an hour person and how we could bring a smile in their life. It's really a crazy way to build a company, but I think it's the right way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's certainly the right way in approaching something like this, because you really have to, logically, I'm sure if someone were to sit down with you when you originally had the idea, they would sort of say you're crazy. Like trying to do this is...
I said it till 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, and so talk to me about the challenges now, like as you've gotten traction, as you've, been building the company, where are the big challenges? Is it, getting capital to fund this stuff? Is it talent? Is it getting into the right employers? Where are you seeing the challenges? What are you really focused on right now?
I think scaling is not an easy task, and scaling in a market where there is confusion and land grab is harder, right? The fast follower always has an advantage on the pioneer. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Google or Facebook, they're fast followers. Even Apple in its iPhone is a fast follower.
Yeah.
So fast followers benefit. So the challenge for a company like us, which pretty much built all the pieces which come together, the regulatory, the technological, the pricing, all those things had to be created from scratch. And for somebody else, if I started a company in, early wage or some daily, whatever. So if I did this today, it would take me no time.
Yeah.
So how do you create barriers? So you can do two ways. You can become, you could have some proprietary thing, but there's nothing proprietary in paying people wages.
Yeah.
You get patents, we have a few. So what do you do? So these are the kind of things we think about, that what are we? So we see ourselves as a financial wellness company. Okay. We see ourselves as the American Express for the poor. We see ourselves as bank for the unbanked.
Yeah.
That swath of people needs many things. Access to money is just one piece of their lives. They need better auto loans. They need better credit products. They plan, borrow, spend, save. All those things matter to them. So they need a 401k that works. They need a retirement account that works.
Yeah.
So we are seeing ourselves as a company which will provide all those things to them over the next year and decade. That is how we go from several $1 million in revenue to being a very large, good company.
Yeah.
Billions, because there are 100 million people who need this.
Yeah. No, it's a significant percentage.
And then we are like, Netflix without the content cost. We charge them a fixed fee every month for the financial services. And whether we charge them $1 or $5 or $10 a month, if 10 million people use it, that's significant.
Yeah. So I'm sure, I know you've engaged in this and started this company because of the impact you wanted to have on people. Can you share one or two good stories of some of the benefits or how this has actually helped people with day-to-day, challenges, struggles, how this has made an impact on people's lives?
Yes. There are many videos that have now been made with users of our service, employers, deployers of our service, and few refrains come out each time.
Yeah.
Peace of mind. The fact that I had access to this money was extremely, it made me feel relaxed or reducing stress. If you had to go, so the psychological effect, there are two types of effects, Bruce, that we can calculate in life, the measured effect and the psychological effect.
Yeah.
We will always gravitate towards the measured effect, 23% reduction in that. And I always say, really, what do you mean by 23%? Because anyone can come up with anything.
Yeah.
Going from 2 to 2.2 can be so there is always the measured effect. So let me first cite a few measured effect numbers. So last year we moved $1 billion into the hands of lower income employees. Wow. That's a significant number.
Yeah.
Several 100,000 users used us. We are a very fortunate company. We have several hundred employers, maybe 500 plus employers who use us. Walmart uses earned wage access from PayActiv, and many, many other major companies. So these are measured impact, moving over $1 billion and so forth, and $150, $200 at a time. So these are, we avoided, some studies say that we avoided $120 million in fees.
Wow.
Helped avoid. So a typical person can lose about $200 every month because a $35 overdraft, 2 late fees, 1 payday loan, a couple of other transactional fees, balance below $1,500, $6 a month. Now, if you add it all together, on the average, a lower income worker is losing $200 a month.
Wow.
If you put $200 back in their pocket, because they have earned it, but they're using it in its cost of goods or whatever.
Yeah.
If that is what's happening, you just gave a few 100,000 people a 7% raise. This is a stimulus to the economy.
Yeah.
So that is type of the measured impact. Then the psychological impact. So much of this is kind of needless suffering. This money is not helping the employer. How does, a few $1 million, which are earning 1% in a bank account, help the employer if they have it? I mean, if they don't have it, let's say it's a small business, that's a different matter. But if they have it, if they allowed this kind of a service, it's only going to make the employees happy. So there are many statistics now. We did a NPS, Net Promoter Score. We do it all the time. And we asked the question that, would you recommend a colleague to this workplace? And it's astounding. It's 84. These are, NPS is usually single digit or negative. I mean, Apple has an NPS of 60. So these are, good, thought out, hard metrics that we are discovering. it is definitely making an impact, and very, very, very happy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So for listeners, what type of company should really consider this? Do you see that there are certain industries or type of company, level of company that really should look into this tool?
So I have a stated objective that anyone who has an hourly worker is welcome. I don't want to say that. And, anyone who's, business leader like yourself or who talks about scaling, you'd always say, oh, how could you do that? But I want, whether you have 5 employees or 1.5 million, my customer is your hourly worker. So anyone who has hourly workers, we will try to, of course, there are different ways that we engage with very small companies and, mid-size and large size. So anyone who has hourly employees and they ask for advances, or you can see that there is workplace financial stress. Yeah. And I would say in the US, 80 million people are living as hourly workers. About 40% of the population, over 100 million, is paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. I can assure you, if you walk down the street from where you're located, every business kind of needs it, or they're doing it just in an informal way. Yeah. Helping their employees. Yeah. So that's the way I think about it. So yeah.
And if people want to find out more information about you, about PayActiv, how would they get that?
So it's PayActiv, www.payactiv. It is without an E. Okay. So PayActiv.com, or go to earnedwageaccess.com or timely. So we have all, because we crafted all these names. Yeah. So they all are. So that's the best way to reach us. If you Google our name, you will find hundreds and thousands of links. Yeah. About what we've done, and user stories and testimonials and so forth.
Excellent. I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can click through. Safwan, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking some time with me today, and great work you're doing. Lots of kudos to you, and I'm curious to see how things play out for you.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Scaling Up Services with business coach Bruce Eckfeldt. To find a full list of podcast episodes, download the tools and worksheets, and access other great content, visit the website at scalingupservices.com. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at scalingupservices.com/newsletter.